Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I have another fun fall card to share with you today. Hey, so I'm using Jaded Blossom stitched oval dies, scalloped oval dies, along with their gnome dies, girl scarecrow add-ons, the girl gnome dies, spring dies, Build-A-Booth fall add-ons, wheelbarrow fall add-ons, fall candies grid style, and scallop circle dies. And I am using P13 Stamping Pad Skin Tones, Fall Fever from Echo Park. And I put this little girl together on the assembly video for that, along with the Wheelbarrow Add-ons assembly video, so check that out. There they all are. So you can check me putting those together. So first of all, I have a piece of Paper Tray Ink Craft cardstock, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches for an A2 sized card base. Now I am using some of this Echo Park Fall Fever, cut at 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card front. And I'm using it horizontally this time. So I'm going to add that in. On the inside, I'm going to add a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, 4 by 5.25 inches. And I'm just, it makes it look a little more fancy. So I'm going to add that in the inside. You could certainly leave it craft colored. You could still write and stamp on it, but whatever, I decided to add that. Next, I'm going to add a strip of paper from that Fall Fever pad. Oops, I hit my camera. Sorry, guys. Adding it with some ATG tape. There we are. Kind of across the bottom. And then I'm going to cut off that overhang with a pair of scissors. There we go. And I have another pumpkin cut out of pattern paper from that Echo Park Fall Fever line, and I'm just going to put it together with Paper Tray Ink dark chocolate cardstock for the base, just so for the stem. And I'm going to add that to my card inside just to decorate it. So there's my little pumpkin. I'll tuck in a couple of leaves as well, using my Barely Art glue and my reverse tweezers. There we are. I'm going to add another one. This is just a simple card design. And once your die cuts are assembled, it's pretty easy. Next, I'm going to use these stitch and scalloped ovals. This baby blue piece is the 12-inch solids that match the Echo Park Fall Fever line, and it's just like a light blue color. And then the pattern that I used for the scalloped oval is in that 6-inch pad for Fall Fever from Echo Park. And I'm just going to add those two together and stick it down sort of in the center of that card front. And then I'm going to add that strip of grass just to give myself a little anchoring point for my little fall scarecrow girl. So I'm just going to add that across the card, trying to keep it nice and level. That's the nice thing about working on a Stampin' Up! Pad. You have those grid lines you can use as a reference. Trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. And now I'm going to figure out how to set my card up. So I'm going to cut this little piece. This is the fall add-ons from the wheelbarrow dies. And I'm going to cut them in half and add them to my card. So I'm going to slip them in on either side. Oops, underneath the grass. There we are. And I'm going to slip in the other side. On the other side, I want to make it look like I've got a bunch of pumpkins going across the back of my card. So this is just a way to fake it. So I'm slipping it in underneath that other grass. Oops, I'm going to use this little tool from my old Cricut machine. Just try to bend those blades forward a little bit so I can slip my pumpkins in. There. And fun stuff, right? I did use Canyon Clay and Orange Zest cardstock from Paper Tray Ink for a lot of those pumpkins, but everything will be listed on my blog post. Now, I went ahead and I cut that pumpkin, the big pumpkin again, out of some orange paper, and that is from that 12-inch matching Fall Fever solids. And then I just cut it in half. I didn't bother with the stem because I'm just sort of filling in behind that little scarecrow gnome girl. And there, it looks like she's got pumpkins all across the whole card. Lots of fun. So now I have a little sentiment. I stamped Happy Fall on some Nina Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and that's going to be my sentiment. Now I'm going to add some little hands to this pumpkin, and she's going to be holding this little pumpkin in her hands. And there we go. Isn't that cute? I just think it's adorable. I'm going to add her on nice and flat using some ATG tape again. And there we go. Adding her in place. Super cute stuff. Isn't that cute? And then I will add on my little pumpkin that she's holding. I'm going to glue that flat with some Barely Art glue. I just think she's super cute. And remember, everything that I used to put her together will be listed on my blog post. Now I am going to pop up my little sentiment with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals here. It's kind of fun to have a sentiment in a circle. It's the kind of the nice thing about having circle dies, right? And stitched and scalloped circle dies. It's perfect for this kind of stuff. Just peeling off those release papers, and then I'm going to add on my little sentiment, Happy Fall. Isn't that cute? Then on the inside, I've got a little pumpkin. I'm going to add a sentiment from the Give Thanks stamp set. And I don't think I had that listed on my ingredients, but that's what I'm using. So I'm going to stamp that in some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And it says Happy Thanksgiving. And I stamped that, like I said, on some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. And I am just stamping it a couple of times to get a great sentiment. And then I will cut that out with the outline dies. Oops, I gotta find them. Using my mini little desktop Anna Griffin Empress machine, the mini one. And I've just got to find the right one. Oops. There it is. And then I do tape it in place a lot of times just to make sure it doesn't move. There we are. And now I have cut it, and I will add that to the inside of my card with some Barely Art glue. There we are. Overlapping that pumpkin just ever so slightly. And isn't that cute? So now I'm pulling out some Echo Park enamel dots. These are Jungle Safari. And I'm just going to add a few of them to my background. The nice thing is that when you use one company, a lot of the colors match. So usually you're in business. So I'm just going to add, odd numbers, visual triangles, and all that jazz. Trying to figure out what we're going to add here. And there we go. So I'm going to add a couple of leaves cut from that same wheelbarrow fall add-ons. There we go. That's Honey Nut paper tray ink cardstock and Scarlet Jewel paper tray ink cardstock. And there we go. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team. The Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on these amazing products. And thanks as always for watching. I really appreciate it. Come back and watch another one soon. Bye, everybody.